Good evening, I'm John Carter. Welcome to Poland Daily. The European Commission is satisfied with changes made to the Supreme Court bill by the Polish government, which now abide by the guidelines set by the European Court of Justice. That's according to Mini Andrzejeva, the spokeswoman for the Commission. Yesterday, President of Poland, Andrzej Duda, signed the amendment to the bill concerning the retirement age of judges in the Polish Supreme Court.
The Polish president signed the amendment on the last day before the due date. On the same day, the European Court of Justice upheld its decision to revoke the new regulations concerning the retirement age of judges of the Polish Supreme Court. It's very likely that had the decision been different, President Duda would have signed the bill. If the European Court of Justice didn't stress its doubts concerning the retirement age of judges and the rule of law in Poland, President Duda would have handed over the bill to the Constitutional Tribunal and continued making the life of judges difficult. Since the opposite happened, the President signed the bill. Maybe not entirely happy, but he signed it nonetheless. Members of the ruling Law and Justice Party denied these speculations and stated that they expected nothing more and nothing less of the European Court of Justice. I have no doubt what the intentions of the European Commission and the European Court of Justice are. Mr. President had the full right to wait on the matter. The amendment to the Supreme Court bill was approved by the Polish Parliament in a very short time. Given how quickly it happened, President Duda's decision to wait to sign until the very last moment fueled speculation. However, the spokesman for the president, Błażej put an end to that. Mr. President had 21 days to sign the bill, and he did that in that time.
Would you sign the amendment if the European Court of Justice hadn't sustained its opinion on the matter?
As I've said, Mr. President made his decision and signed the bill. The new regulations concerning lowering the retirement age of judges from 67 to 65 and forcing the judges at that age who hadn't written proper appeals into retirement are now gone. The first president of the Supreme Court, Małgorzata Gersdorf, and a few dozen other judges will now resume their duties.
A request for the arrest of Stefan Michnik, a Stalinist-era judge, has been forwarded to authorities in Sweden by the Polish Military District Court in Warsaw. Michnik is suspected of crimes against humanity in communist Poland. In his career, he sentenced many anti-communist freedom fighters to death.
Stefan Michnik is suspected of committing a total of 30 communist crimes. Some of them qualify as crimes against humanity. He is a brother of the editor-in-chief of Gazeta Wyborcza Weekly. He did not have an education in law, but was a judge in the 50s during the Stalinist era. He sentenced anti-communist freedom fighters based on fake evidence. Tadeusz Purzański, president of Public National Tribunal, which sentenced Michnik to infamy last year, stated that this communist criminal is a monster who should have been taken to court long time ago. He sentenced to death Polish patriots, Polish anti-communist freedom fighters, knowing that the evidence was faked. The only reason for such sentencing was the elimination of political opposition to the communist regime. He gave many of such judgments, frequently sentencing people of his own age. He was young at the time, of course. This, in any case, cannot be an excuse for avoiding prosecution now. Adam Michnik says that his brother was too young to understand what he was doing. Today, of course, he is too old to be prosecuted. He was dedicated as the communist judge. This opinion comes from the documentation. He was praising the authorities that they gave him the opportunity to do such important work for the communists. Well, those were dark years, and there were such dark characters. One of those monsters, a communist gangster, is the judge, Stefan Michnik. Stefan Michnik is 89 today. He lives now in Sweden. In Poland, he faces up to life imprisonment for his crimes. Many political observers say that the chances of him facing the Polish courts are rather slim. A similar attempt for his extradition took place in 2010, but the Swedish court dismissed the charges, stating that the crimes fall under statute of limitations.
Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán is under pressure following a wave of large-scale social protests throughout Hungary. A law introducing a change of the rules regarding overtime hours has mobilised Orban's political opponents.
The widespread protests took place partially against Viktor Orban's government, but more precisely against the so-called Slave Act, which was an amendment to the Labour Code, according to which the overtime limit is to be increased. The demonstrators protested in front of Parliament on Monday. They also gathered in front of the public radio and television headquarters in Budapest.
We will be not only on the streets, not only on the internet, but in workplaces, on the roads. We will be in every place that hits the regime.
According to the amendment, the overtime limit is to increase from 2,050 to 400. The overtime hours are to be settled within 3 years. Another reason for the protest is the reform of the administrative judiciary adopted last week.
Main problem in one word is the autocracy itself. That is the point when it's coming everything. So that's that problem what we have.
Protests took place in many cities of Hungary, but the most violent course took place in Budapest. Members of the opposition party entered the headquarters of public television and demanded their postulates to be read on the air. They were removed from there by force. Opposition parties, including the nationalist Jobbik, whose members later marched to the office of Hungarian President János Andor to file a petition calling him to veto the bill, called for street protests.
We will stay here as long as we can. Low temperature makes it difficult, but we will stay here anyway.
Trade unions announced another demonstration for Friday if President Andor signs the bill. Critics of the new law accused the government of concluding an agreement with German automotive giants having their factories in Hungary, who complain about the growing shortage of workforce. The government claims that the changes will benefit both those who want to work more hours and employers who complain about the lack of hands to work.
The new fifth branch of the Polish Army, WOT, or the Territorial Defence Forces, are attracting more and more young volunteers. The formation, modelled on the US National Guard, has become the natural home for thousands of students attending military schools across Poland. The increase in popularity of military schools and swelling ranks of the Territorial Defence Forces can be partly explained by the shock many young Poles experienced by Russia's invasion of the Ukraine in 2014.
The Territorial Defence Forces, or VOT, currently numbers 17,000 soldiers but plan to grow to 50,000 by 2021. The recruits spend 6 weeks in training, spread out over weekends, with at least 2 days of training per month. After being accepted, the soldiers receive weekend training for another 3 years, the first dedicated to individual training, the second year sees them choose a path of specialization, and the third year is dedicated to team building and group exercises. This year will be the first in which VOT organized drills for school students during their winter break in January and February. Many of the VOT recruits express pride in serving their country. 21-year-old beautician Angelika Pozorska says that she feels as if she has something to prove. On a daily basis, I like wearing nice clothes and high heels, and I want to show that a woman who likes wearing nice clothes can join the army, and I am an example of that. She argues that in order to join the army, it's necessary to be passionate about it. I love the army, and even if I have to take my makeup off or crawl in the mud, I will do it because I love it, and you need to feel it. When you join the army, you need to feel it. In the official mission statement of VOT, the formation is tasked with strengthening patriotic values. Patriotism is one of the main reasons why the veteran Grzegorz Wołoszczak joined the formation. He stressed the need of bolstering patriotism among the youth and the importance of passing on military traditions.
I treat VOT as an extension of the tradition of the Polish Home Army from the Second World War, and I think there is a great task facing VOT to build some character and patriotism among the youth. And not only the youth, because I know that there are also middle-aged people joining VOT.
He also believes that the military experience held by many older veterans can be highly beneficial to the younger volunteers.
I have quite a lot of military experience which I would like to pass on younger generations, young colleagues who I will be serving with.
The new formation of volunteers have been criticized by the liberal opposition parties in Poland, arguing that it's too tightly connected to the conservative government. The young recruits seldom want to discuss party politics and instead stress the need for themselves to get all the necessary training should Polish national security be threatened in the future.
Thank you very much for joining us here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily Weather, and then join me after that for Poland Daily Business, Travel, Culture and History.